Tennessee will beat Kentucky by 10, 20, or 30. Caleb, I'm going to make you pick right now because let me clue you in for those that zone in to Tennessee and those that don't pay attention as much to the rest of the conference. I understand you all have families and jobs, and I get that, but it's our job to keep tabs of those, and we do that. So I did it over the weekend. Took a long look at Kentucky's football program. We'll have a complete breakdown of them tomorrow with a Kentucky beat reporter to be named later. Kentucky's football program just would have been better off had the season ended in September. Wildcats look pretty frisky. They beat Ole Miss in Oxford, which was number 6 at the time. Since, things have gone really, really bad. Lost to Vanderbilt, 20-13. Now, there's no shame in that because Vanderbilt's good, but I almost wonder if Kentucky thought, man, we just got beat by Vandy. So we're melting this puppy in. So now Kentucky lost to Florida 48-20. That's a program that doesn't know who its head coach is going to be or its athletic director is going to be next. The Gators are 4-3, 2-2 in the SEC. The Cats lost to Auburn 24-10 in Lexington on Saturday. Now listen, both of those programs are reeling, right, Caleb? So there's nothing embarrassing to lose to Auburn 24-23. Okay, because both programs are hurting. But for it to not even be a game, Auburn's 3-5. That was their first SEC win. They were 0-4 before going to the Commonwealth. The Wildcats have had serious issues on offense, as evident by they haven't scored 20 points in an SEC game this season. Tennessee hasn't given up 20 points. Kentucky is now shuffling quarterbacks, as Brock Vandagriff is not Vandagood at all. So they've gone to Gavin Wimsatt. And check your program if you don't know who Gavin Wimsatt is, because I totally understand. But it doesn't really matter what they're doing at quarterback because they're horrible on the offensive line. Kentucky is 13th in the SEC in sacks allowed, giving up 2.5 sacks per game. Tennessee averages just over 2 sacks per game, which isn't exemplary statistically. That's just 15th in the SEC. However, it's a bit misleading. The Vols have right at 8.5 tackles for a loss per game. So I ask you, Caleb Calhoun, Tennessee will thump Kentucky by 10, 20, or 30. Now, they've had an off week to prepare as well.
I'm willing to go 30, believe it or not. And because there's actually a real key reason for why Tennessee could thump Kentucky even more. Did you see how easily Auburn ran the ball on them over the weekend?
Yes.
That was embarrassing. If Auburn can do that, what do you think Dylan Sampson in the interior of Tennessee's offensive line can do?
It could be pretty ugly. I mean, I watched a good bit of that game in retrospect while it was still in question. I love how they have the little clips. And this Kentucky team is the worst Kentucky team to come to Tennessee since when? I mean, you would have to go back quite a few years. Last year, I thought they were pretty bad. Or 2 years ago when they came to Tennessee, they were pretty bad. But they at least had what you would think a competent quarterback, but an above-average quarterback in college. I know you don't like Will Levis, but I don't know what they've got or what they hang their hat on. They're not even that great defensively, Caleb. I mean, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to fall in this trap again. Caleb, you can if you want to, but I've gotten burned by it too many times. This is the week where Nico breaks out and they stretch the field and they do all those things. They very well might, but I'm not going to go down that path. But I think Tennessee controls the Wildcats. They don't even score 10 points, and Tennessee wins about 13-10. I'll have my official prediction later in the week, but Kentucky's just plain bad.
Yeah, no, they're terrible. They're terrible. And they've gotten worse as time goes on. And, you brought up that Ole Miss game a while back. It's hard for me to see this being Nico's breakout game because whatever issues Kentucky has, I will say they actually don't have the worst pass defense. But
But who throws against them?
Yeah,
You don't have to. I mean,
well, that was Ole Miss's problem.
mm-hmm.
Was Lane Kiffin was airing it out a little too much. If you keep it on the ground, I mean, it's ugly what happens to them. And you're right, they have a horrible offensive line. And so, I honestly, it's hard for me to see any way they do win this game. I mean, I can go back earlier in the year, Dave, before anybody we're talking about now. We can go back and look at South Carolina, where they really didn't even have to do that much offensively. I think they had like 272 yards of total offense, but they sacked Kentucky like 18,000 times in that game.
Literally, that's not an exaggeration. Caleb has the stat pulled up. It's 18,000 times.
18,732 to be exact. Like, yeah.
You know what the potato farmer said?
What'd he say?
It's an awful lot of sacks. Potato sack. I could have done something far dirtier, but I didn't.
We're talking about tight ends and sacks today. Sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
Dave started it, by the way. It's interesting on why Kentucky's rush defense has gotten so bad, particularly the last 2 weeks. It's basically been a problem since the bye week. And what's being brought up recently is like, so they beat Ole Miss, they hit their bye, they come off to face Vanderbilt at home. For those who don't know, I picked Kentucky in that game because I'm like, Kentucky's better. They're at home. They're off a bye. And they're obviously going to take Vanderbilt seriously since Vanderbilt just beat Alabama. Nope. I was dead wrong on that. Maybe I wasn't, though, Dave. Was I wrong? Maybe they did take Alabama. Maybe they did take Vanderbilt seriously. And maybe they did. Maybe they did take Vanderbilt seriously. And maybe they were rested, but they just weren't good enough.
No, that's clearly what it is. But I think that they took that mentally as a loss to Vanderbilt, where a loss to Vanderbilt is not what it used to be. Today's tough question brought to you by Double D Piping.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beaten. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping, the absolute best in fire prevention.
All right, so our poll question is what, Caleb? Where do most people stand as to the Kentucky game early in the week, if I may say so?
Okay, so the poll question is Tennessee will beat Kentucky by 10, 20, or 30. And right now it's 58% say 20, 29% say 10, and 13% say 30.
Okay. If Tennessee doesn't win by at least 20, I don't think it's a great day at the office. I mean, that's me. I know that no player would ever say that, but Caleb, that's me. That's where I stand on that issue. I just believe that ultimately Tennessee defensively, I just don't see. I mean, how in the world is Kentucky going to score more than 10? I don't even know how they're going to score 10, Caleb, against this defense and given their weaknesses. Now, somebody brought up on the message board a good point. Will Mark Stoops incorporate the 3-3-5 or the 3-3-6? Yeah, I mean, I think that's a possibility.
But
what was it? Yes, go ahead.
I mean, even if he does incorporate that, wouldn't you think that Tennessee, after a bye week, has at least figured out something of what to do with that? And I think Mark Stoops incorporates a lot of that a lot of times anyway nowadays. So it seems like just preparing for Kentucky would naturally have you prepare for that.